On almost every site that you build, you're going to eventually need some static pages, like privacy policy or terms of service. Just the plain old static, boring, text-heavy pages. And for pages like that, Markdown is the perfect format, but just Markdown alone isn't gonna cut it. You likely want to wrap the pages in your application layout, maybe even a special nested layout for your pages. Maybe you have like metadata, like a title, subtitle, some tags, I don't know. Maybe you have a shared partial that you want to include, like a call to action or support section description, or what do I know. The point is that you want Markdown, but Markdown with a little bells and whistles. I've taken my preferences for these kind of pages and bundled them up in a gem for reuse under the gleeful name of Satanic Pages. If we are meeting for the first time, my name is Mikkel and I am a builder. On this channel I like to share stories about how I build and grow my own products, from like tiny, small, laser-focused Mac apps to very serious platforms like the one that I'm currently giving a bit of a glow up. Let's just give it a quick introduction. So what used to be called the unpronounceable funnin.co has now changed its name to funnymost.com. And like I said, it's been living behind the scenes. It's basically helping my comedian friends sell their specials online. And until now, I haven't made too much of a fuss about it, but now I'm giving it like a proper landing page and all the static kind of pages that you want for a project like this. So here we have them, the privacy policy and the terms of service that ChatGPT has happily provided for me. You can see how the articles look sort of the same. They have the application layout, they have a special layout. That's all Satanic Pages. So let's take a look. I'll get back to Funnymost in another video. So here it is, Satanic Pages with 9 stars and growing. So Satanic Pages is static Markdown pages with YAML frontmatter and inline ERB embedded in your Rails app. That's like 4 things. It can look like this. You have the YAML frontmatter up front. It's just basic YAML. We have a plain Markdown with the heading, and then we can reference the data, a special data object, which references the frontmatter, the metadata. We have the author. We can even render a tag list partial down here and pass it the tags from the frontmatter. So there's the static Markdown, there's the YAML frontmatter, there's the inline ERB, and it's embedded in your Rails app. 4 for 4. Setting it up is as easy as I like to create a nested layout. So all my pages use the same layout. We wrap it in application layout, then we use the data.title for an H1, and then we can put it in an article. We can even give it a class name like prose, which is kind of handy. And the data object has these helper methods. So if we just call data.author and it exists, we get the value or we get nil. If we call it with a question mark, we get true or false, whether it exists in the metadata. And if we call it with a bang, we get the value or it raises. Installing is just adding it to the bundle and making a pages controller, including the controller concern. And then I like to set up a wildcard route. So this means match anything and everything guided to pages.show as page. That means we can do page path or page URL, and then give it the constraint that is automatically set up from Satanic Pages. And this basically means ignore this route if there are no views that match this current path. And that's it. That's what Satanic Pages looks like when you use it. But let's take a tiny deep dive into how it works. If you don't care, you can freely skim ahead. Satanic Pages adds this rail tie when you install it into your Rails app. And the only thing it does is that it includes the layout helper for render layout, and then it requires this Markdown template handler. Satanic Pages uses a gem called Markdown Rails. Great gem. And it registers itself to handle .md files. So anything in your views directory that ends in .md is going to be handled by this Markdown template handler of Satanic Pages. It uses the basic Rails handler from Markdown Rails, and then it includes smarty pants for fancy quotes. And then it adds this pre-process step, which before it renders the view, it pre-processes it by resolving the ERB inline. So we pass the front matter, we render inline the Markdown content, which is called rest here, as ERB with locals of data front matter. Rails has these HTML comments by default of begin and end for where partials start and end, and they show up in the Markdown. So we strip those with a simple gsub, and then we force HTML text to be inline, which is because like if you include a partial that has like nested HTML, it's going to confuse Markdown. So we just make it all one line. And here's the controller concern. We add this class method called constraint that we saw in the routes file that basically just takes all the pages that we find in page list and see if anyone matches the request path. So that's like slash about is going to match to about.html.md slash I don't know, help slash contact is going to match help slash contact.html.md. Yeah, you get it. And it references this pages, which is what is this one, which is a page list, which is basically just listing all the pages by file name and then passing them into Markdown and front matter. So we glob the base path, which is just the controller name in app views, and then anything that matches .html. Then we reject anything that starts with a underscore because that's a partial. And then we turn each of them into a page, which is another thing that we add. And then the page actually passes the file again. So once again, we front matter pass. And this is, of course, sort of slightly awkward that we need to pass it twice. Didn't we just pass it in the pre-process? We did. But we do it because we want to reference the data in both the layouts and inline in the Markdown files. So yeah, it's just what it is. It is what it is. What does it look like though? So parsing Markdown is taking this regular expression and then YAML save loading it, and then returning a new front matter object and the rest. So the rest being everything below the front matter, the Markdown content. And then we return a new of this class, which is front matter. And front matter is the fancy struct-like thing that we saw in our README, this here. So we make methods for all the values, but we also make a bonus bang method and a question mark method. We do this by adding a bit of magic. This is Ruby, right? We define method missing, and then anything passed to this object. If the method ends with a bang, we see if it exists in the hash, and then we return it or we erase. If it ends with a question mark, we return whether or not it exists as a key inside hash, and if anything else, we just try and look it up, which is going to be nil if it doesn't exist. And yeah, that's it. Satanic Pages. So fun story. When I do open source projects like this, it's always more fun if you go like it's not even a mile, the last few meters. So fun story about this guy. I asked ChatGPT for fun ideas for images for a project like this called Satanic Pages, open source project. What do you got? And one of these suggestions was Baphomet reading a book. And I was like, what, who's Baphomet? So I asked it, and it's told me it's like a gold figure from Satanism. And I said, okay, give me an image. And it responded, great, I'll make you an image. And it started working on it. And it responded with like, can't do it, sorry. And I was like, why is that? And said, let me think about it. Oh, it's religious imagery. I can't do it. But I can possibly do it if you like describe it non-religiously. And I did. And I said, okay, fine, then do it non-religiously. And he was like, yeah, I'll try, but I can't. It's just still, I can't do it. So I brought the exact same prompt to Midjourney, and he was happy to oblige. I got this perfect image for something called Satanic Pages. And I guess the gem is more or less done. Like, this is all I need for Markdown pages like this. It's already working on Funimos, and it is also in production on Tenor. So yeah, I hope it helps. Otherwise, hope it was fun to get a look behind the scenes. See ya.